What's going on? What's going on, everybody? It is your host, David from Top Bunk Sports, and welcome to the very first episode of the 7 Express podcast. Man, it is dope to finally do a podcast that involves my team, my squad for life, the New York Mets. This is something that was not generally my idea. This was brought up to me by some special people that I really consider good friends that are also diehard Met fans, and they just really wanted to, make a platform to just talk about baseball. Now, for some of you, well, Mets in general, specifically, but for some of you that know me, I am top. They call me Top. Top Bunk Sports. My name is David. For those of you that know me within the Knicks community, Mets community, and for posting highlights and stuff like that, y'all know what I do. But I got a very special person with me, as you see him right there. We also do have another person that is supposed to be on us daily. He was supposed to be here today, but unfortunately, due to some important things, he wasn't able to make it. So shout out to my guy Chris. Hopefully, we'll be able to see you on the next episode. But I want to introduce you guys to AP. What's up, AP?
What's going on? What's going on? I'm just still happy that we were able to get that early Christmas gift from with the signing of Juan Soto. I'm waiting for some other gifts. I guess like I got greedy, so I need Santa to deliver some ASAP.
Santa's been quiet, but he's been moving. He's been moving.
Yeah.
For those of you that don't know AP is from Mets Twitter. He is from the specific space of Queens baseball. Shout out to the Pope, Rube, and the accountant Josh, and our guy Keith from Shane Sons. Make sure you guys go follow them. They run the space almost about every day when it comes to the Mets, and we've basically met through that, and are always there. And AP and Chris hit me up one day because they saw that I've been doing the podcasting for about a couple of years now, and they wanted to get some, they wanted to involve me into an idea of just creating another, Mets podcast. With so many Mets podcasts that are out there, they wanted to create their own podcast and their own platform to talk about the Mets and give their opinions, whether it's bad, whether it's good, good criticism, bad criticism, whatever. And they basically just they talk on a daily, so they wanted to bring their opinions and their conversations to the airwaves. And they know that I, I have my own thing, and they wanted to involve me, which I'm super grateful, because I really do appreciate these guys. I've met these guys in games, what good games, bad games, during the season.
We don't
So
want to talk about that one,
we
huh?
don't
The
know
bad
about
game.
that. No. We had to go
No, that
see
that's a
junior.
bad
We
memory.
had to go see little league home run derbies to get
Yeah.
those games out of our minds. But yeah, man, these are two good guys, two great guys, great guys that you can have conversations with within the when you're talking about the Mets. And the first thing that I want to ask AP is AP, where did your Met fandom start? Like where did it begin? Who did you get influenced by? Yeah, how did it all start for you?
Well, there I gotta blame my dad for that shit. Like he put me into like this whole like mad Met situation. And one, but in a cool way. Like one of my earliest memories I can remember. I think I was like 4 years old. He took me to my first Met game. It was a night game at Shea Stadium. I don't even remember who he played. I don't remember the game at all. I just remember just being out at night and taking the subway to Shea Stadium. So taking the 7 over there, and that the only memory I really remember is just being like on the platform and seeing Shea. But yeah, ever since then, like I mean, I've lived in Flushing all my life, so it's basically been in my bloodstream. My both my parents were Met fans, so it's just been something that I've just kind of been born into, and it's been a long, interesting ride of this fandom. There's been obviously a lot of lows, but the highs have been amazing too. So it's been a wild ride, but yeah, the Mets have been in my life pretty much the entirety of it. So I'm really like a Met fan from birth.
Yeah, the same here. My family they've been Met fans since I was born. And all I was doing was watching Met, baseball on a regular, but Mets baseball specifically. And I do remember celebrating that NL East championship in 2006.
Mm,
Don't
that
remember
was
the
a good
run
year.
vividly because I probably was in different areas at the time or whatever, but kind of watching our downfall and then kind of coming back up in 2015 where I vividly remember that entire year, and then kind of going back through the same route again where it was like we got there and then it was right back down to poverty, before
Yeah.
Cohen ultimately took us out of that. That it's been an interesting journey, and then you fast forward to last year where after the wall that we hit in 2023, and then everybody said it was going to be like a resurgent year, like a reset year, I should say. And they completely flipped the script, and they unexpectedly they went further than what everybody thought. And it was an interesting season, but it's a season, AP, that I could tell you right now I will never ever forget. Like if I ever have kids, I'll be able to tell them like, listen, there were so many fun seasons, but that 2024 year, you gotta go take a look. You gotta
That
go watch it.
2024 year is going to be one of those seasons that's going to be in the Mets books as an all time great, even though it didn't finish with ultimately with the championship. What I can tell you about the 2024 season, it was truly a roller coaster, and it was exhausting at points. Like I was exhausted at some points. It was mentally draining. Um, I'll be honest with you. After that May, I really was like, yo, like I'm like this team disgusts me. I did not think that it was gonna be this bad. Like I was like, we hit complete rock bottom. And I've never Gary Cohen has never come off like that dejected so early in the season, and like the way that he talked about April, and when he said they were 0-5 and this is rock bottom and there's nobody there. The funny thing about all of this is that that was my birthday when they hit 0-5. So I'm sitting there. That was the doubleheader, and I remember being in that space, and Keith goes like, "Yo, the Mets don't love you," like or something like that. They
Yeah,
don't
yeah,
respect
yeah.
your birthday or some shit. And
They
I
don't love
remember
you,
being like, "Yo,
AP.
they really don't. Like they really don't." But then, if you remember that doubleheader, they lost the first game. They choked it out, and then in the second game they won. They came back and won off that Pete, I think, home run, and then to tie it, which I didn't even know I hit that ball out. And then I think it was Vientos. It wasn't Vientos. I forget, or is it Beatty? Somebody hit that walk off, and then they won the game. I was like, well, all right, well, I guess I'll take a split. But at that point, we were 1-5. But
Yeah,
everything looked. It was really like the beginning of the season was crazy. Then they go on this crazy run. Like they were in London, they won that crazy game that I still don't understand how they won a catcher's double play, and then they went on that hot streak after Grimace, and then it was off. Now, tell me how you felt in August when we're like in the thick of things and we're losing games like to Oakland where we were winning by 5 runs and we choke it out, and then we're beating San Diego and we choke that one out, and then we're beating Arizona and we choke that one out too. Like I know, like nightly, it felt like we were like in a playoff race, and it just felt like I was just like, oh my god, it's the low, and then the high, and then the low, and then the high. It was like back and forth. Like I said, it felt like exhausting at times.
yeah. It felt, for most of that, I was there. The Oakland, all three Oakland games, I was there, and around that time when we got to that point, you had already knew that we were either wild card or we weren't getting anywhere. When they lost those three games to Oakland, it felt like somebody hit you in the gut and took all
Hmm.
the air out, because you're going into that game, in that series, saying, "Yo, this anything can happen in baseball." But knowing the way you've been playing, and they were kind of hitting a little bit of a cold streak right there. It wasn't that long, but you kind of see they were losing certain games that they shouldn't have. I mean, they had just lost 2 out of 3 from Anaheim,
Yeah.
so that right there already, you're like, what the fuck? But you're thinking to yourself, like, all right, they're coming home, they're playing 3 against Oakland. They gotta at least take 2 out of 3, or even better, just sweep, because this team,
Because we got to remember that schedule at that point. Because
right,
at that point in August, we're looking at the schedule and we're saying, okay, this is the places where we got to get fat. Because if not, that road trip was hanging over them massively before. Like they were going to go to San Diego, they were going to go to Arizona, and then you had that, the Chicago White Sox. But that was makes basically do or die for the season. So you were looking at that series against Oakland, and you're like, "Yo, we gotta put in work there." And for them to lose like that, with those series looming, like you already knew, like, "Oh man, this is gonna be a tall task." So that's why, I mean, at that point in the season, you're thinking, "Crap, like we just gave away some games that we shouldn't have," you know?
right. And I mean, and it also doesn't help that when we played Oakland, they were basically the second best team in the second half of the season. I mean, they were
Because of
hot.
course they would be. Of
Right.
course that's just the way that
Yeah.
and
So,
tell me like people weren't nervous when we went to Chicago after all that. Like, and I remember Macho talking about like we were probably gonna like get swept or we were gonna lose some
oh,
or
that,
something.
yeah,
I
yeah.
was like, yo, I couldn't even fathom a sweep against that record breaking losing team. But yeah, no, it was a crazy ride. I mean, we were able to survive August. We got through it, and then we had some big games and even the rain out with Atlanta, and then to play that doubleheader at that. I feel like all in all, with everything that it went through, I wish that I would have enjoyed it a little bit more because I feel like it was just like I was just kept saying, "Come on, just finish, just finish, just finish," and I was just like really, I just wanted them to get to the playoffs, and then it took it to the last day. And then it went to game 163, it felt like, because we were the only team playing that day. So it really felt like it was kind of like we had to sweat it out all the way to the end. And then when we get to the playoffs, and then we win that game 1, and you're like, yo, all we got to do is get this game and we're in. And then we lose that heartbreaking game 2. And then I'm like, oh my God, now we got to play this game 3, a do or die game 3. And me and you were there at Citi Field. I'm not ashamed to admit, the top of the ninth, I was like, yo, I can't watch this team. I was like, I got to walk away. I put the game on in my headphones and left. I was like, I can't see it. I can't see it. I can't see it. But I'm being the Metfan that I am. I still got the game on. I'm listening to it, and I'm like, yo, they were literally an inning away from freaking clinching the day before. This would suck to lose the way that they did. And then you get Pete with the greatest at bat that he's had as a Met. And then it just feels like from that point on, the season took off. Like it was crazy because it was like it was we had nobody talks about this, but we had the greatest record in baseball, or not the greatest, the best, I should say, the best record in baseball. I want to say what from June all the way into the end.
Yeah. Yeah. No, we did.
Which is
And
crazy because you would have never told the Met fan going through that was the case, but we had it, and I'm just thinking to myself, man, like don't let the season end like that. When P hit that home run, I was like, wow, like it almost felt like, all right, like it validated everything that this season was about because it
and
it, it, it would have sucked to have lost in that wild card round.
and it felt good that it came from him with everything that he's gone through in that season, just struggling and not being able to come up with runners on base, and not being able to really cash in throughout most of the season. For him to be in that situation and to deliver it in spots that he was struggling through in the entire year, I think that also felt good. Like it was like, dude, like thank God it was Pete. And again, it just showed the testament to what that team was. Different guys were always coming through. Iglesias, uh, Mark Vientos. I mean, Vientos is one of those that I personally think is, besides Lindor being the hero for most of it. I think Mark Vientos showed that, listen, all this stuff that was going on where I was barely getting playing time, I was getting disrespected, and all that, and nobody was really giving me my opportunity like that. Like it lit a fire in him. I think, when he hit that walk-off home run against the Cardinals in City, that was something where you're like, yo, if this kid can get ample playing time, we may not be talking about the same Mark Vientos that everybody's saying that he's not it. And he showed that. And it goes back to, yesterday when I was on Keith's Shane Son's live, on Uncomfortable Conversations, where I was saying that, in the segment, we were basically saying, like, where would you put Soto? And a lot of them were saying that they'd put him in the number 2 spot. I was basically the only one that said, yo, I keep Vientos there.
Yeah, me too.
Vientos, yeah,
I agree.
Vientos has shown that he can be trusted in that position and in that spot in the lineup. Once he was
I
put
think
there,
I like the idea of splitting the players around
right,
and like going left. Let's say Lindor goes left because he's a switch hitter. We go lefty, righty, all the way down. Like I think that because then that way they have no ability to really match up with you. So if they bring in like a lefty, whatever, you're able to like have your righties, whatever, and there's
yeah.
no one like reliever that could like they
I
could
mean,
like
hey,
plan for.
you could switch it to where it's like if they're facing a lefty starting pitcher, you could have lead off Lindor as your leadoff hitter, and then Juan Soto as your number 2. But if you decide to
Yeah,
go righty,
yeah,
you
that's true.
could go. You know what I'm saying? You could go Lindor as your leadoff, Vientos as your number 2, Juan Soto as your number 3. Like there's so many ways that Mendy could play around with it, and I think going into the Juan Soto thing, them signing him, it helps so much no matter who else is in this lineup. The Juan Soto thing, I think we spoke about it before we started.
Yeah.
As it drained a lot of us in being in
Well,
in the fan
before
base.
we even get to that, like I want to talk to what you just mentioned about like the team and like redemption. Like to me, I think one of the magical things about the 2024 season was that this was a team that you could easily love. Like everybody on this team like had a story and like about second chances and like coming up and then they go overcoming stuff from whether it was Lindor and the way that he's been like dealing with all this stuff from ever since he got here or like what do you call it Ovientos like you said up and down Iglesias who was on the scrap heap who was thinking about like calling it quits
Pirate, yeah,
like like it's so the Manayas the Severinos the every key player here, like you could just point to and be like, yo, they had like a story of overcoming and overachieving. It was a really great story. It just like the thing that sucked about it was just that it didn't end with the championship. But I'm forever grateful for the run that they had. Like I loved that they didn't sit there and die in Milwaukee. I loved that they shoved it into Philadelphia's face when nobody gave us a shot and we took it from them. We should have swept them. We took it from them. I the one thing even in that Dodgers series, like I know that there was a lot of blowouts and everything. We blew them out a couple of times too. Like let's not forget that. I just
right.
think that because of all of the innings, all those are important innings, all of those bullets wasted to get there. I think that our starting pitching was like just done. Like at that point, and you also got to give credit to their offense. Their offense was relentless, but I really think that we had no more starting pitching, and our bullpen was what it was, and I think that was just it. But I just really was like super proud of the effort, even though like when they lost at the time, it hurt, but I was thankful to like have seen them like put up that fight, do what they had to do to get there, and damn, come 2 games from the World Series. I mean, we didn't lose at home. We took it back to LA, and anything could happen, but unfortunately, it wasn't meant to be. But as far as like the off season and everything that's been going up until this point, like this has been really another like it's funny we went from an like what to me felt like an emotionally exhausting season to now what felt like an emotionally exhausting like just signing of Soto like I know me and you talked about this. It felt like a lot of people in the spaces and in Twitter world and just Met fandom were like, it was like fighting in house. Like everybody was like, "Oh my gosh, like I'm done with this," or like, "No, we really need to get them." And it just kept on going and going. The longer and longer that it got till that Sunday, which is
Yeah,
what the Sunday
yeah,
that just passed. Which is funny enough. Funny enough, I don't usually because of the kids and like just schedule and everything. I usually don't host like spaces anymore like that. But
right.
I was like, yo, nobody's hosting a space. I'm seeing all these reports that, yo, this could happen. I was like, why not? F it. Let's do it. Let's throw up a space. A couple people got on. Like we're sitting there, we're just like joking about like, yo, you think that Soto's gonna wait till halftime of this football game to like sign? And I kid you not, like I said that. I really did say that. I was like, yeah, he's gonna wait till halftime. Like he's gonna announce it at halftime, whatever. And like I wanna say I do think it was halftime, which is funny. It was like around 10 something. And then Tank comes back
Shout out to
and
Tank.
says, yo, Tank comes back and says, we got him. I'm like, yo, because of everybody, but I also want to give Jay a shout out because Jay he comes in the space. He doesn't really always talk, but Jay sent me something real quick, like a good 20 minutes before. And he said, yo, you got to peep this. And I'm like, what? Like, what is it? And he sent me a tweet from Bill Madden that said, like, he gave the parameters of the deal and everything. And I'm like, yo, is this real? Because I know Bill Madden from his SNY days, and I know he's a well-renowned journalist. So I'm like, but like with all the fake accounts and everything, and we saw like a billion fake accounts on Twitter, I'm sitting there thinking, can I trust this shit? So I threw it up on the space. And then everybody was like, well, I think some dude said like that's a fake account. So I was like, oh, it's a fake one. But then Jay was adamant. He kept saying, nah, look at who's following it. So I went back and I looked. I was like, well, maybe people got fooled, but I'm seeing Harry Rose is following this dude. Michael K's following this dude. So I was like, yo, this sounds crazy to me because it's like, if this is real, like, is anybody gonna go to that length to sign this man?
Right.
And like whatever, we fast forward 20 minutes, we're just like all there. Tank comes and says it. I refresh my timeline immediately just to confirm it's not some BS. And I see John Heyman that got verbally attacked by Keith McPherson literally like a day before to confirm that shit. And I just was like, holy crap. It was like what I could tell you, Top, it was like New Year's Eve. New Year's Eve just popped off at that space for Met fans. The Yankee fans were just like, what? And like it was just like that wild, like, wow, like the money, the years, the fact that the Mets did it kind of vibe. Now, I'd like to talk to you about it and ask you, like, I think I know how you feel about it, but like let everybody know feel like how you felt when you initially heard it and like what you think of the deal.
I was actually watching Subway to Shea. Shout out to Anthony from Subway to Shea. Everybody go give go give him a follow. He was actually on a live with Keith from Shea and Sons, and obviously they were kind of breaking down the winter meetings and trying to see what was coming. And the funny thing is, I had gone to my kitchen to go grab something to eat, and I have my phone with me, and I see Heyman says contract is worth whatever. So I didn't get the his notification that he had not that he said Juan Soto to the Mets. I got the notification after that. So I was like, wait, what? Click it, whatever. Go to his thing. Bam. I said, I literally just went like this, and I dropped my phone. I have a small crack right here in the corner because I dropped it. I was like, yo, there's no way. I didn't expect it to happen that day. I was thinking that it was just gonna linger and that he was gonna just let this shit play out. Obviously the teams that they said that were involved, I'm thinking he's probably sitting back like, look at these guys. A bunch of fools trying just because they want a piece of me. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm here thinking he's just sitting back trying to, let this thing linger. AP, I'm telling you, I have never jumped. So the last time I jumped like that was when Lindor got traded because there were
Oh
small
no,
rumors.
I can tell you specific. The last time I jumped like that was when Lindor hit that grand slam against
Oh,
Philadelphia.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
That
yeah,
was the
yeah,
last time
yeah,
I jumped like
yeah.
that.
No, no, no. Of course, no. That, yes, yes. But I'm saying in terms of just like grabbing a
Oh, just the
player that,
signing. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
right?
yeah. I got you. I got you.
Because again, I mentioned this a lot during the spaces. Francisco Lindor is somebody that I've been following before he was even mentioned. Excuse me, with the Mets. I watched him in his perfect game when he was young, through my uncle, and then just watching him doing what he was doing in Cleveland. And I really got to really watch him when he made the World Series with Cleveland in 2016. Since then, I was watching him consistently. So when small articles were talking about Francisco Lindor, possibly being moved, it always occurred to me like, yo, the Mets could probably go out there and grab him. And lo and behold, out of the blue, I just get a notification that the Mets traded for Francisco Lindor. And dude, I screamed, bro. Screamed.
You
And
think we won that trade?
at the bro, anybody listen. How many times have I given you the opinion that anybody that thinks that Ahmed Rosario and Andres Jimenez were gonna pan out
Yeah. I
as
was
good as
tired of
Francisco
Ahmed
Lindor,
Rosario like 3 years ago, like
bro,
three years
brother,
before that trade happened. Ahmed
brother.
Rosario never lived up to anything that I thought he was going to be, and I and that second baseman that just got traded by Cleveland. So
Andres
then
Jimenez, yeah. Mhm.
Jimenez is no longer in Cleveland. So for anybody that thought that Cleveland might have stole that one, sorry,
Listen,
buddy.
it was one of those feelings where I was like, "Yo, Steve Cohen just made his mark." So then you fast forward to now, and it's like, dude, we got we got the best player in the game, bro. One of the best players in the game, like
I
literally, like
mean, he
we
was
we
what he should have been the second runner up. I don't care what MLB says. He should have been the second runner up to the MVP. We know that they were hating on him. The fact that he didn't go to the All Star game is again a travesty and a half.
right,
But like for us to get Juan Soto means a lot. I do think what people are saying in terms of this signing and its significance is true. I do think that we haven't had a signing because I know the Lindor situation was a trade, but a signing of this magnitude, I would say since Beltran, and I think that this has the potential to be franchise altering. Now, something that me and you were talking about before we got on was stuff has to happen now. Now that we did this, we need to add to this. It can't just stop here. And I know that we may be, I don't know if it's impatient, but I think that the lack of moves is a little concerning just because you're seeing all these trades and everything happening, right? So you're seeing, like we just saw, what do you call it, Crochet went to the Red Sox, and then you saw the Yankees got Williams, and then you saw the Cubs, and they made that move for man, I'm forgetting this kid's name from Houston. That would have been Tucker. Like
Cloud
we
Tucker,
could have, yeah, we could have. That would have been a great addition to the Mets. Let me tell you, Tucker would have been great. But we're seeing all these moves being made, and then we're seeing people getting signed, and like we're like, yo, we gotta make a couple of signings, and we gotta, because I think I was talking to Chris about this and just going, obviously it's normal, I guess, to compare yourselves to the team that you lost to because you want to see how you stack up. So right now, looking at the teams like the Dodgers and the Mets, like their best versus our best, and I'm like, okay, they got Betts, we got Lindor, they got Otani, we got Soto, and they got Freeman. Now the piece that's missing there right now would probably be Pete,
right?
who's not there. So I think that that's where the Mets need to really think about, like, yo, how are we going to stack up with them? Because if we add Pete there, right? If we put Pete there, if he comes back, then I like to think that we have a lineup that can compete with damn near anybody. Because then you add the Vientos factor to it. You add the Marte factor to it if he's here, or if we trade him, whatever, whoever else is there. Like you have Nimmo, you add him to it. You have Alvarez, and you have Siri is a buck
Oh,
98 hitter, but the dude hits bombs. So like we have a lineup that could like get at you in many different ways. So I'm I'm excited to see what the Mets are gonna add, but we need to add. Like I don't think that we could just sit there and just be like, all right, we got Soto. Let's just chill. Yo, I can tell you from like from the conversations I'm having even with my father. Like he was like, I hope to God the Mets don't think that that's just it and they're just gonna stop because it's true. Like I think we that's an amazing move. Thank you, thank you, Steve, if you're listening. We love you, but we need you to do some more. Like we can't just sit there and be like Soto and let's wrap it up and like go home. Like we need, obviously, we need starting pitching. Like who's like Senga hasn't pitched in a year. And I don't really want to just go in there with question marks. I think that I've said this a lot in the spaces, and I'll say it here. I don't like going into seasons with question marks. I
Right.
don't like. I'd rather go in there with like everything, every single situation, whether it's pitching, the bullpen, starting pitching, I should say, the bullpen, offense, everything being certain. So then that way we're not scrambling at the All-Star break like, oh my God, like we need to get this because like we it's been like a hard like we've been blowing games or we like our starting pitching is just not doing it. Like I just rather have solid stuff. And right now we have a lot of what ifs. Like we have that home situation. Is he gonna be a starter? Like Montas, what are we gonna get from him? Like can Peterson repeat? McGill is still on this team. I don't know why, but he's here. So I don't know. Like there's so many things, and I just want to make sure that we have those solid rotation pieces that you could say, okay, he's pitching today. I don't have to worry about like it being a blowout. He's gonna keep us in the game.
So let me ask you this. Do you think that they pivot? Let's say if they look at the Pete situation and they go, all right, you know what, let's kind of let's put that on hold for real quick and let's just try to address the pitching rotation for one last time and get that over with, and then we focus on Pete because he's just the one single player. Do you think that they go the route of giving a Sean Manaea a 4 or 5 year deal, 100 plus mil, or do you think that they pivot to Walker Bueller and say, yo, we'll give you 3 years on a lower, lower with lower money, but we'll give you your 3 years because we've seen what you did in the postseason, even though you had a rough year last year. What do you think would be the best option for you? Because
Man, yeah,
there has been opinions where it's like, no, I wouldn't give Sean Manaea that because he's 33. But at the
yeah.
same time, I wouldn't give Walker Bueller that because he's in his 30s and he's injury prone. And it's like, what do you think that they should do? Because I think they're stuck in a bind, especially after not bringing Sevy back.
Yeah, I that see this is the Sevy situation is interesting because I sit there and I'm like, why would they not give Severino the money that they eventually ended up giving to Montas? Like I don't
Right.
that move didn't really make sense because I think Severino proved that he was a very serviceable pitcher and he had a track record. Montas has had some issues recently. He hasn't really shown a lot. I know that Stearns and the pitching lab may feel like they could do something with them. I mean I was nervous about Severino on a long term contract, but 3 years isn't terrible. I think for Severino, I think that
I
wasn't
agree.
a terrible trade. I mean a
Yeah.
terrible signing. Um, man, I the Mania thing. I want. I would like to bring him back. 4 years seems like a lot too for a guy that that just had that season last year, like that was good, but then previously weren't that great. So I don't know if next year he reverts or if it's just like a 1 year deal. Like it just becomes kind of nerve wracking because it's like the longer that these contracts are and the more that they are, like it starts becoming like riskier. The Bueller thing, I do think that the Mets should think about signing Bueller. But then there goes the whole project thing again. Like, is
Right.
he
Right.
gonna be good? Is he gonna? So this is a long-winded answer, but I'm gonna tell you. I think I go both. I think we sign both. I think that the Mets have to sign
Okay.
both of them because I think the Mets truly do need two starters. We don't know what we have in Holmes as a starter. We don't know what we have in Montas as a starter.
Right.
We have Singa who hasn't pitched in a year really, and then we have Peterson. who had a great year, but again, can be repeated. So
Right.
out of all our starting pitching, we have what? We have Senga, we have Holmes, we have Montas, and we have Peterson, and then we have McGill. I know we have, and the dude that we got from I think it's Blackburn, from Oakland.
Right.
So, and he's coming off a spinal injury too. I think that we are going to go 6 man. I think that, and Stearns came out in that press conference and said he wanted a lot of depth. He wanted to have like 9, 10 starting pitching options. So if you're
Yeah.
going that route, I think that that means just listening to people that we listed, you have to have a good two solid ones. So then you could push
Right.
some of those guys back. So I think that a Bueller and a Mania would be a great sign. Look, in a perfect world, I would sign Burns. I would sign
Okay.
Burns because I think that the Mets need an ace type pitcher. I know that some it seems like there's some concerns there. The velocity's down, the spin rate they're saying is down. But I think if you look at his numbers in Baltimore and just in his career,
Right.
he's been that ace type pitcher. So I think that when it comes to signing somebody, that would be who I would go to. Now I'm gonna flip it on you. How
Right.
many, if you were had the opportunity to sign a Corbin Burns,
Mm.
would you be okay doing like an 8-year deal like Freed got for that type of money? Oh, well, he's gonna command more. So
Right.
would you be okay giving him that 8-year deal?
Absolutely. I don't even have to question that. The reason why I would is because if you look at his numbers, Corbin Burns has pretty much shown that he could win. I mean, you're talking about a guy who has already pitched for 7 seasons. You look at his baseball savant page, and he kills. He absolutely fucking kills. To me, the reason why you probably won't see them be aggressive on Corbin Burns is because David Stearns wants to keep his pitchers on short-term deals. He's not going to give a pitcher a long-term deal. Corbin Burns is looking for a 7, 8 year, 200 mil type of deal. They're not going to do it. Now, if they do, it's probably because Steve Cohen was like, "Listen, Manaya's not going to come back. It's what else are we do? There's nothing else we can do." So to me, I think it's all about them looking at it from a situation where it's like, yeah, we got to go get that ace. And at the end of the day, if it's not, if that's not if not, then we give Manaya his money, and we deal with the repercussions if there is. Now, if there's not, and he ends up being better than what he was last year, hey, it works for us. But there's, you play with. I always say, you've heard me say it multiple times. You have to spend big slash overpay to get what you want. That's where the league is at now. You're gonna have to do it with. I mean, they did it with Montas. People say they did it with Clay Holmes. People say, look at Sevy. Sevy got 67. A lot of people don't think he deserved that money, but automatically he got that money, and you already can assume Shamanai is going to be asking for way more. So you have to overpay. People that we talk to daily keep saying, "Well, I'm not going to pay him that type of money, da 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 da," because he's not. At the end of the day, you're in a position where you have to spend. You have to go get your starting pitcher. You have to go get the starting pitching that's going to lock down your rotation. So you have to overpay. It's like there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Yes, does it worry you a little bit that he's older and it might affect you in the long run? Absolutely. But those are the risks that you take because of the options that you got. There are people right now that are basically saying, yeah, I'm not gonna sign, Corbin Burns because he's in his 30s. Who gives a flying fuck? Like I'll show you right now. I'll show you his baseball savant page right about now as we're talking. Like I'll share my screen, and I will show it as we yeah, let me see here, right about here. I'll show it right now.
Mhm.
See, just so people could kind of see it, like, uh hold on, just so
And
people.
while you're doing that, I really do think that it feels to me like he's that the Mets are gonna go the Mania route. I think that they will figure it out. I think that that reunion is probably going to happen.
Right.
I think that they should also sign Bueller though. I think that those
Yeah.
two should be signed. Like if you're asking me what in terms of starting pitching, I think that those two are like the most realistic options. All right, so I'm looking at
You're
that.
looking
What
at
you're
Walker
putting up.
Bueller, right? This is
Yeah.
Walker Bueller's numbers right here. This is basically what his percentile rankings were within last year. And again, for the most part, it wasn't great. You look at his splits right here, splits against lefties, his splits against righties, monthly splits. You could kind of see the difference. His ERA is high as shit. I did right off the bat. You could already tell, just
Yeah,
based
but
on
we have to preface this also saying he's coming back off Tommy John,
right,
and Tommy John, pitchers that have Tommy John usually rebound like second, third year. We
right,
had that similar situation with Zach Wheeler, so yeah, I mean, look, I think with me. I would love to see, and you saw glimpses of what he looked like in the playoffs when he had it all working. So
right.
I'd be totally on board with like taking him on. I mean, again, like another project, but I think that this one would be a really. He's had a solid track record before it. I think that you're banking on the fact that this year was kind of a wash because he's just getting back to like to pitching and have coming back off a year. So I think
Right.
that's my opinion anyway.
Yeah, I honestly agree, but I also think that if you, I'd rather take a chance on this guy who showed you what he could do. Yes, again, he's up there in age, but at the same time, it's like they already seen what he could do. They know he's comfortable here. Why not give him
Wow, I
as
see a
many?
lot of red in that screen. A lot of red.
Yeah, which is good. That's great.
Yeah, a
That's the good part.
lot
Now,
of red. So that looks very impressive. Now, can you pull up?
now, if you look
I saw something.
Corbin Burns is just straight red. That's
Yeah,
why
wow.
it's that's
That's
why I would say if David Stearns was in a mindset of, you know what, let's let this guy be the only pitcher in our rotation that gets that a long term deal. That's it. After him, we're not giving any other. We're not giving no more pitchers long term deal unless he's like a legit stud. Like Corbin Burns would be that option right now.
now. I don't know if they had the meeting this week or if it was or if it's next week. But can you
Right.
pull up the numbers on Nick Pavetta? Because
Yeah.
I'm not overly impressed by like the numbers that I saw, but people said that he was like he pitched into some bad luck and that his numbers look more impressive than like if you look at the overall picture. Now I'm seeing a lot of red on the bottom as opposed to the top. Like so what's that showing us?
So basically, so if you look at like his K percentage, he's had a great K percentage. He strikes out a lot. He really doesn't walk much. I mean, it kind of does look like he walks a lot based on the number. Um, but his fastball is okay. It's again, they say it's average. He's his his breaking pitches are not that crazy. And then his pitch run value is pretty much average, which is kind of not where you want it to be nowadays. So that definitely is a situation that could hinder you. But his chase percentage is much better. It, and I think when you look at just this right here, like this is where I tend to think where I look at it as the important thing. His K percentage is impressive to me. His which means he has a lot of movement on his pitches, whether it's his fastball, whether it's his sweeper, especially his sweeper. But his fastball is his most used pitch. As you see, 93. And again, it's if his fastball is working, you're likely to have success with Nick Pavetta. I know the record is what the record is. That he went 6-12, but this guy does have a lot of good has a lot of good movement on his pitches. He can definitely he's a inning. He could give you long outings. So that's another plus because how many of our pitchers last year they really couldn't go more than 5 innings. So that's another situation. So you're dealing with that as well. And I think you have that same situation with Corbin Burns. Sean Manaea, to a certain extent, yes. Walker Buehler is the only person that I could probably say you might have that issue with. But other than that, again, you have options here. I just think that if David Stearns was to come out and say, yo, you know what, we're going to try to give a pitcher a long term deal, I think Corbin Burns is your guy. But if they want to keep guys on a short term deal, then they might want to think about Manaea. But if it's really hitting them that they don't want to give Sean Manaea that money because of his age, then Walker Buehler's that guy. Honestly, like I think that would be your third and final option.
And the way we would get Scott, we would get Burns would be a straight up Cohen gets involved and he just signs them. I don't think it's gonna be Stearns is gonna like really be interested in that. I think that would be one of those. The owner comes and says, "Yo, I want the best pitcher. I'm gonna sign him." I think that's usually how we get like these big. It feels like Cohen just says, "Yo, I want this person. I'm just let's just do it. I don't care. Money means nothing." Like
Right.
he just wants to sign who he wants to sign. But and like the behind the scenes Soto signing kind of sounds like that's what was going on because according to Heyman, it felt like the Mets were not like the favorite all weekend, and then it
Right.
kind of just came down to like, this is what the offer is, and Steve was just like, yo, all right, let me go get my pocketbook, and then just
Right.
said, and he opened the shit up and just said, here, have it. So it's like it feels like when Steve wants to be like, all right, I want this person, I'm gonna go get this person, whatever it takes. That's what happens. I think Stearns is more like I don't want to be locked into anything. I want to be able to have the flexibility to be like, okay, after a year or two, you're gone, and I could kind of just play with the roster again. I think
Right.
he's very meticulous like that. Like he really does, like kind of like look at things like 3 steps ahead. So I
Right.
think he's kind of just like, all right, we have Mania for this year, we have Severino for this year. Um, let's just play it out for 1 year and hope that they have these career years, which panned out. But now he has to like pivot, and now he has to be like, okay, do I want to bring them back based off those years, or do I like get a Montas and hope that he has the same outcome? And can I do that again and repeat it? So it's kind of like it almost feels like he's trying to constantly repeat that success without having to like bank on getting these people for long term deals. Like it's just like
Right.
let's just get these guys. And if I don't get somebody that if I don't resign this person or keep that person, I could just plug somebody that's very similar and has like similar attributes, and we could plug them in and go. But I don't know. Like I worry about that because like if you don't hit on these things, because everybody forgets Hauser.
Right.
Hauser was a train wreck. So when for every Severino we had a Hauser there that it didn't do anything. Blackburn, I didn't feel like Blackburn brought anything to the table. Like I felt like he was what he was like when he was in Oakland. He didn't really
Right.
show me anything for me to be like, oh wow, like this guy it could really hold it down. And then he got hurt, and that was it. So we have to, like I said, I would really prefer having that short thing in the starting pitching, just so in case the other like reclamation projects aren't working, at least we have those guys in the starting rotation that could like be like, okay, at least we have those reliable people to like end losing streaks, to like start winning streaks, to like keep the bullpen fresh. So just like keeping that in mind.
AP, how great does Juan Soto look in that jersey, bro?
he looks like he was born to wear that blue and orange. He really does. He looks
My,
happy. He looks
my
very
brother,
happy in that game.
he looks ecstatic to be on this
Mhm.
fucking team, bro. And we haven't even touched the field yet. Like,
Man, that opening day at City Field is going to be a movie. It is
yo, I'm
going to be
telling
a
you, if
movie.
he hits one out opening day, you talk about the stadium shaking.
Oh my God. I think Met fans are ready to like cheer for him and like really support him. I this is twofold though because we all
Right.
know the money is huge. He has a
Right.
huge contract. That's not going to be a secret. He has the biggest contract in sports history.
Right.
My biggest concern, and I'm not even trying to be a Debbie Downer or nothing like that. I think
Right.
the concern is going to be just the fan reaction to to his defense, and if he
Right.
misplays something, how are people going to receive it? Because you already know with Lindor it was always like, oh, the money and oh, the star shortstop, and he's not
Right.
playing like
Right.
a star.
Right.
So the minute that hardships come, like the minute that he doesn't do what he has to do, or like at a bat, or he just misplays a ball or something, how are the fans going to treat him? Like that's
Right.
going to be the interesting part of it. Like I have no doubt in my mind that he has a track record for doing a certain thing as a baseball player. I think it's like when the other part rears its ugly head, what's going to happen then?
Right. I do also, because now that we're on this topic again, I do want to say something in terms of the crosstown rival that had a lot to say yesterday.
Oh
I mean,
boy, did they.
you talk about a fan base that, yeah, we're class, where we do things a certain way, we run within a certain motto and stuff like that. This was a fan base, right? That was always saying, pay the man whatever he wants because we need him here. We know what he does for this team. We know what he brings. We know how much he vibes with everybody on this team. Bring him here. Give him whatever the fuck he wants. They were even saying, yo, Cashman, fuck out of here. How you go sign him? You go negotiate that shit. Fuck Cashman. Cashman don't even gotta be there. You go negotiate that shit. And it just seems like to me, because of the fact that he basically went across town and basically said what he said. I just it's like the switch up is crazy to me. Like I just never understood exactly, and they just went boom. They flipped. Like it was shocking to me. So
Yeah, it is weird behavior. I do think that the way that certain people behave was like he was like a homegrown Yankee that he's been playing there for like 10 years. The dude just got there. He got traded in 1 year, and people were like literally burning jerseys and doing a bunch of stuff that made no sense.
right. I do wanna get your opinion on the question that everybody was talking about yesterday. We'll just hear it real quick.
Have you been in touch with anybody from your former team, and can you share what those conversations with your now former team, the Yankees, and could you share what those conversations might have been like?
I haven't talked to any of those guys. Definitely, we talked to them through playoff at the end of the playoffs, but after that, I make these processes. I haven't talked to any of those guys.
What's your opinion on that? Well, what do you make of that? Because I'll tell you straight up before you do go. Did you notice his demeanor when they were asking when that reporter asked that question?
Yeah, it looked
Did,
like he was kind of like I don't. It seemed like he was kind of like upset about it, or like he didn't like that. That's the way it went down.
like they were like he was like, yo, bro, like come on, bro, don't ask me about them here. Like I'm not there no more. Like you could kind of sense that there was something that happened last year when he was there. That he put that face, and
Yeah,
it's
that
just
was definitely a change in the tone. Like you could definitely tell something. But like it's an interesting question. Um, I I don't know if out of respect for him and his process, people said, "Look, let me mind my business. Let me not interfere with him trying to get his bread." But I do think that it's kind of weird that nobody said like, "Yo, at least like let me like check the temperature," or be like, "Yo, like we would love to have you back, but like we understand and whatever if you don't like I'm not trying. Like I think like for a judge who's the captain, for him not to be like not even to have that or text to be like, "Yo, I really enjoyed playing with you." Hope we can run it back. Something like it just something like it feels like he was kind of like left off, like just like abandoned. Like they just kind of just whatever. And like I was listening to Evan Roberts talk about how Soto made it clear that in his previous places of employment, like in Washington or in San Diego, after that, that he was super tight with the owner. Like he was really close with the owner, whatever. And then it comes that like the Yankee owner, how kind of like gave him a space, kind of distanced himself during this year, which was like the opposite of what Soto was like used to. And then you heard the whole family stuff being talked about, and how even in the contract negotiations, Soto like was like asking Cohen if he was going to be the owner of the team for the next 15 years because he didn't want to deal with anybody else. So that lets you know that he values relationships. Like he's
Right.
very like relationships mean something to him, and he's super protective of his relationship. So seeing the way that he like made that face made me think he didn't feel like those relationships were, I guess, what he thought they were, or maybe he felt like maybe let down. Maybe he was waiting for somebody. You know, Nimmo reached out. Nimmo reached out.
Well, it's funny that
You
you
know,
say that because I was going straight into that.
yeah.
If we look at this article right here, basically Brandon Nimmo, who is also a Scott Boras client, um, he texted Juan Soto. It says early in the offseason, Mets outfielder Brandon Nimmo said he spoke with Cohen and president of baseball operations David Stearns and was told the Mets would heavily pursue Juan Soto. Nimmo, who like Soto is represented by Scott Boras, said he obtained Soto's phone number several weeks ago and texted him. Nimmo said he relayed to Soto that his experience with the team has been amazing and he wanted Soto as his teammate. Now, that again put a smile on my face because that right there shows that the whole thing of possibly I think AP left, but as I keep going while AP comes back, actually he's back. um with the
Mouthful. I don't
whole
know what happened there.
Oh, you're good. You're good. With the whole thing, where like remember in the very beginning how they were saying how Francisco Lindor had gone to Cali to help recruit, even though that wasn't true according to him. Now you're kind of seeing this where Brendan Nimmo kind of went out there and texted him and basically was like, "Yo, he would love to have him as his teammate." I think that made me smile because you're seeing guys within the team saying, "Yo, we want this guy." The whole notion that with when the reporter asked that question to Juan, excuse me, and he basically said, "No, I haven't spoken to those guys," and then people want to make it seem like, oh, they didn't want to interrupt in there in this process. I will say that that's BS, and the reason why I say that's BS is because you didn't have to keep up with him every day. You didn't have to FaceTime the brother while he was in his meetings. You didn't have to FaceTime him when he was there. You could have had, even if it was a FaceTime call, you could have had one FaceTime call. You could have had one regular phone call. You could have had it back and forth through text messages. One of those guys in that Yankee locker room, especially Aaron Judge, because you are the captain and you are the guy that everybody is standing behind and that is trying to follow. They're trying to follow your lead. A text message or a phone call should have been made after what you guys did last year, making it to the World Series and having that run. A phone.
Well, Top. Let's talk about something real quick before you even get into that.
Uh-huh.
A lot of people are bringing up the fact that after the World Series game was over, that Soto flipped his hat around, and like like the way that his post conference kind of came off like kind of like he was ready to start free agency and he couldn't wait. Like he didn't even like give it a couple of days or like say like, yo, right now, like after this loss, I just want to take some time. He was just like ready to like be a free agent. Do
Yeah.
you think that that may have rubbed some of his teammates the wrong way?
I don't think so because at the end of the day, the brother stood there a full year. wore the jersey with pride, wore the jersey with respect. You saw the emotions. He went on interviews saying how much he enjoyed being a Yankee while the season was going, how much he enjoyed it while free agency was going. Even in the press conference, you know, after the press conference was done and he did extra interviews, he showed them so much love. Said that they hold a special place in his heart. So no, I don't think that's disrespectful. He's put his hat backwards before after they won games as well. If people do their research, they would understand that, they would notice that. I did my research and I saw that. So it wasn't just, after the World Series. He was doing that in the regular season too. That's just what he does sometimes. But I personally think that it's one of those things where it's like, even if there was some sort of back and forth in the locker room or whatever, you're unless it got so deep that something hasn't came out, but it got deep to where that's why they didn't hit each other up. If that's not true, then like I said, I think it's very, very shocking and very, very disappointing. And again, I could carry two bags of what about what they do. You know what I'm saying? They run their organization the way they do in a good manner, whatever, you know what I'm saying? But for what he's done for that organization, he picked that organization up alongside with Aaron Judge and Giancarlo Stanton and Gleyber Torres, and got them to where they got to, because the year prior to last year, they didn't make the playoffs.
I
They had the
mean,
same guys. They
imagine if
didn't
he
make the
wouldn't
playoffs.
have been there. Imagine if he would not have been there, they would have only had one hitter for most of that year. And like, look what he did in the playoffs. So yeah.
And guess who made that comment? The guy that was there previously, that went to the other side, just like fucking Soto did. Don't you
Yeah.
find? Look how ironic that is. But what I'm saying is that at the end of the day, whether you're Judge, whether you're Stanton, whether you're Aaron Boone, for that extent, a phone call should have been made to the brother, because he's only hearing it from the front office perspective. But in my mind, for me, if I was in his position, what are my teammates think? My future teammates, if I do go back, because right now they're not my teammates. What is their opinion? You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm sure he probably had it in his mind, like, yo, maybe I do want to go back. But nobody is making that extra step through that team to kind of go ahead and try to be like, yo, bro, we love you here. It would be dope to have you back. Look what we did last year. Let's go do that again. Nobody. So to me, it's kind of like Brandon Nimmo goes ahead and does a simple text message, and yet these guys can't leave him a message or a phone call. You know what I'm saying? Like, to me, it's like,
It's crazy. I don't get it, because I don't get what the thinking in this whole process from the Yankees side was. Like, I don't get why. And I mean, maybe it's not a big deal to some. I just think that if you're trying to convince this man to come back, why are you not using your best assets, which would have been like, yo, you get to hit in front of a guy that has the what people recognize as the home run record. A guy that constantly is hitting over 30 home runs, over 100 RBIs, MVP of the league. Why would you not have him come out, or at least like somebody on the team, and be like, yo, you know how we feel about you. You're a great asset, whatever. Like, it's very weird that was. And I thought that was like kind of like at least a standard thing to do, like for
right.
somebody like to just come out and say it. But whatever, that's their loss, and
Yeah.
and we move on, and
Yeah.
we have them. So we're glad that happened. Now I want, like, what do you think? What are your thoughts about the Mets offense right now? And if our first baseman comes back, and if he does, how much are you trying to offer that man?
I think with Pete Alonso, that's an automatic win. I think Pete Alonso, regardless of what the year he had last year, Pete Alonso's giving you 30 plus home runs. That's a lock in. I think if I had to come up with a deal For me, it would probably be in the 160 to 180 range. I know I'm probably bugging in terms of that because of the fact that it's probably the lowest he'll probably see if the Mets were to ever go down that route. I'm sure a team like a Milwaukee or a Chicago Cubs or even a San Francisco Giants who need a first baseman are probably going to go to that 200 mark.
You think so? You think he could possibly get 200?
Yes, the brother's a home run hitting machine, and I think it goes back to my point where you have to overpay to get what you want. And
How many
Scott
years
Boras,
are you giving him?
probably from the either 7 or 8 years.
7, 8 years,
Yeah,
200. Wow.
because he's 30 right. He's 30 right now. So
Yeah.
if you give him a 7, 8, I'll say 6, 7, or 8 year, at least he's ending his. He's gonna end his career with 36, 37, 38, with whatever team he signs. I think
I mean,
that
my biggest fear with
helps.
that is just the back end, because I feel like Pete will in all likelihood produce year like the third up to the third or fourth year. I'm worried about year number 5 and 6 and 7 and 8. What is he going to be then? Like once his power is not as good, and I think that Pete is like really an all or nothing kind of hitter. So it's like if he's not hitting home runs, then what good is he? Just like what the problem we have with McNeil. If McNeil's not like hitting singles and doubles, whatever, what purpose does McNeil serve? Like he's kind of just that's his niche. Like if he's not a singles and doubles hitter and he's just like not getting on base, then he really
Right.
doesn't have a purpose.
Right. Yeah. No, I honestly see that side as well. And, I could see where people are saying, give him probably a 5 year deal, where at least if you give him a 5 year deal, his contract ends at 35. And at least you won't have to deal with that, with the back end of it going further and further and further. I just personally think that with the way Scott Boras is getting these crazy deals for his clients, that Pete's going to be on that same realm. He's going to pitch the idea to Pete Alonso, yo, you're the top guy in the first as a first baseman in this market right now. Nobody else. And you walked away from a 7 year deal from the Mets that they offered you before you hit free agency. You walked away from that. Somebody's gonna offer you more, and we're just based on what the market is right now. Teams are overpaying for these players. Now, granted, do I think he should get that? Absolutely not. I am totally with you in terms of the opinion of what I think he should get. I think he should get a 5 year deal. Get a 5 year deal. Obviously, it's going to be a little bit of more money, but get yourself a 5 year deal where you're not hurting yourself. All that money in that contract is going to be within the prime of your years in your 30 year range. By the time you're 35, it ends. You know what I'm saying? So it doesn't hurt you and it doesn't hurt the team. You'll probably get another deal where it might be a little lower in years, but it'll probably be a good amount of money as well after that.
Do you
But
think
we all
Stearns
know.
gives him that 8 year deal?
I would say they probably give him a 6 year deal. If they're gonna stretch it, 7, but I don't think the Mets are gonna give him an 8. I think if they probably want to hit the 6 year range.
But your gut is telling you that he's coming back.
I feel like he's coming back after the Soto thing. If they would have never signed Soto, I would probably be like, nah, I don't see if he does. They most likely will probably go to the, Mark Vientos going to first, which I absolutely don't. You've heard me say it multiple times. I don't want
So,
Mark Vientos in
so
first
you're
base,
correct.
and it's
I do
not
feel
because he
like
sucks.
we have a third baseman out there that could play third base at a high level. Does have a bat. I think that Bregman is an interesting choice. I think that right now, looking at it, if all things are even, it really, man, if you're telling me 30-year-old Pete Alonso is willing to sign like let's say a 5 to 6 year deal, worth, I'm cool with like the 180. Give him like, I think he wants to reset the home run. I mean, not the home run, the first base market. I think he
Right.
wants to set it so like he wants to hit a specific number. I just don't know how comfortable I feel. But then at the same time, too, do I feel comfortable in this lineup without Pete? Like, I think that you get a Juan Soto, because you want to have somebody that could protect him and bring him in
Right.
and hit those home runs. So I just feel like it would be taking a step backwards if we don't get that bat back in the lineup or a bat equal to that. Like I think that
Right.
if we don't get somebody that can hit you 30 for 100, I think that's a big problem. So
Right.
that would be a subtraction to the lineup, and I think that the Mets do need to figure it out. And I think that Stearns might have to like get out of his get out of what he feels comfortable with certain things, because I
Right.
do think that sometimes it feels like he just wants to like do a certain way. Like I only want to sign players for this. I mean, and it sounds crazy after what Juan Soto just signed, but a lot of people feel like that's more of a Steve Cohen influence than it is maybe a Stearns influence or a Stearns signing that he really wanted. So
Right.
I don't know.
I mean,
It's gonna be an interesting dynamic regardless.
The Juan Soto thing could have been a both of them. I When fans were complaining about the money, I've 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 always said that listen, nobody knows what conversations were had, nobody knows what they were saying to each other. They possibly could have had a conversation, just Steven and Stearns alone, and they probably could have had that conversation basically going like, at the end of the day, this is the big fish that we need. This is the big fish that we want. Yeah, we're probably going to lose out on international draft picks. Yeah, we're probably going to lose out on certain draft picks. We'll probably lose on certain amount of money just because of the deal that we're giving them. But we know we found ways we can maneuver that. We found ways we can restructure that and still get those back within the time while Soto is here.
Yeah, and this
I
is kind
I
of
feel
like
like they
how
had that conversation and they were all like, all right, bam, all right, let's go get this motherfucker.
yeah, and I think that this is in a day and age where you have teams like the Dodgers forming what looks like super teams. This is how you have to maneuver in these waters. You
Right.
can't play with let's sign the Jose Iglesias of the world and just field the team of Jose Iglesias. You have to go out there and get the big fish because you want them to be able to compete.
Right.
Like I saw the firepower. You know what that lineup looks like? That the Otanis, Betts, Freemans. Then you have the Teoscars in there too. Like that's a great. I'm hoping that Teoscar signs somewhere else just so that lineup could take a hit. I really am.
You
Like,
want to know what's even worse, AP? When you're there and you're watching, we were all watching this shit. How they didn't even kill us with home runs.
yeah.
Most of
I
the
mean,
most of
Otani did
they
like one. I think that whole series, but
Yeah,
yeah.
off of Bump McGill. Like
Uh,
that one I would bro, the one with Quintana, you knew it was gone. But
yeah.
Quintana had them kind of like he had them in a good spot for most of the game. The one that he hit off McGill that went over the foul pole, I was like, of course, bro. Of course he took
I mean, they're
fucking
still looking for that ball. I think that ball probably landed in Wisconsin or something.
in the
I
swamps.
Oh, man. The Mets do need to address a couple of things. They do need to fix that pen. I think a couple of like one key piece I would bring back that like not everybody's really talked about. I have mentioned it in another space was bringing Brooks Riley back. I think he would make a lot of sense because we need a lefty desperately in that pen that we could rely on.
Right.
Um, and I think that would make a lot of sense. I think bringing Pete makes a lot of sense. Winker too. I think that Winker would be a great guy to have um in that on that bench. I
Right.
don't know if he wants to be a bench piece per se, but I think that Winker brings a lot of intangibles. I love his heart. I love the fact that he does not give a damn what like he almost kind of thrives in hurting the other fan base. And I think as a team, you need to have somebody that could do the little things like that could kind of get under your skin, get you playing like out of your normal element, trying to like either like over pitch or maybe trying to groove one where he could take advantage. I think that Winker's a great type of player for this team. So I would love to bring him back. Obviously, Pete would love to bring him back. And Lindor being here, I mean, Lindor does the little things that you really do love in a player. So just want to make sure that we keep as much talent on this team as possible.
Last question that I want to ask you before we wrap it up.
Yeah.
Francisco Alvarez, what do you think his projection is going into this season after basically, kind of having a rough year on both ends of the field? What are you looking to see from him, and how do you think he'll do going into this season based on what he went through last year?
Alvarez, to me, I think I want him just to get back to the basics. I think that Alvarez was overswinging. It felt like he was always trying to swing out of his shoes. He felt like he was trying to do too much. What I would like him to do, and I think he might take a book out of Vientos's chapter and just like kind of, or I don't even know if I said that right. Book out of his chapter, that doesn't make no sense. But basically, what I want him to do is kind of like follow what Vientos did. Vientos talked about like every time he was swinging too hard. So I think Vientos kind of thought about like changing up his approach, and I think Alvarez needs to do that too. I think Alvarez doesn't have to swing for the fences every single time. I think what Alvarez should be doing is just trying to really work counts, like try to put himself in better hitting counts, and try to do the little things. Like you don't have to hit massive home runs. I think I mean, it's definitely easier said than done, but I think trying to like settle for like just like getting on base, getting those singles, getting those doubles, just trying to see the ball more, because I feel like he was overextending the zone and he wasn't being very selective. I think he needs to be able to be more selective, waiting for a pitch that's more in the zone and not over swinging. If he could like get his on base up, and be more of a threat on at the plate, I think he's gonna exceed what he did last year. I think last year he was like at points he was an automatic out, to the point where
Right.
people were like, "Yo, I don't know if this guy is the future at catcher." So I think that he needs to really reassess what he's doing at the plate. In terms of catching, I think he does a great job calling it. I hate the one knee on the floor thing, because I think that has led to a lot of wild pitches. But I think he does that because he feels like he's able to sneak some strikes in for his pitchers. But if he could figure out a way to do that without having to like have that one knee down to guard against wild pitches, that'd be great. And throwing out would be base stealers is another thing that I'd love for him to try to improve on, because I feel like he has a good arm, a good enough arm where he should be able to get more base stealers out.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree. I think you basically took everything that I was gonna say. I think the best part about it with Francisco Alvarez is that he kind of needed a struggling year to find, like, now he's gone through it. Like, he's gone through a little bit of a struggle to now go into next season and be like, all right, this is what I gotta do. These are the things I gotta take away that I can't repeat, and these are the things that I need to keep working on. These are the things that I could add on that became successful last year. So yeah, man, I'm intrigued to see what he's gonna do, man. That's the best catcher in New York. And again, I love this kid. I love this kid. Shout out to my Pope. Shout out to my Pope, man. But
I
no,
love that our backup is a stud too, and he was just a giveaway. So
yo, it seems
I
like
love
the guys that come from the other side, man, they end up winning over
they
here,
love
man. Yeah.
the side over here in Queens. They love to play on
Yeah,
you.
man. They love the fact that we have culture and that we have light. They're not trying to go to a dull
And we have
side.
family.
Yeah, right. And we got sweets. But
Gotta,
now go ahead. What happened? What?
I said you gotta love it. Like we give out sweets out here. We treat your family right. Yo, come to Queens if you love your family. That's all I gotta say.
Come in Queens and dance with the grimace and vibe out to OMG. But no, man, we're gonna wrap it up here. Again, appreciate those that are watching this episode. It's a very special episode. Again, shout out to my guy Chris, who couldn't make it, but you will see him more with me and AP as we roll. Again, this was the first time that we are actually recording, that we're actually opening up this podcast. again, just another Mets podcast out here that's just trying to talk ball, trying to talk about the Mets, just trying to have regular conversation as you saw right now. And we'll have more of these episodes down the line as the season is going on. Maybe we'll probably do like a live, a watch live episode where we're watching the game with you guys and stuff like that as more people start going into coming in with us within the brand and stuff like that.
And I just want to add top, like, it's like there's like a billion podcasts, like you could go get content everywhere. Like what we want to stress about like ours, I think it's just like you're gonna get content like from us that like like from our perspective. Hopefully you guys enjoy it. Like what I like from the podcast that I listen to is that it's one that like you could like you're going to work or you're going somewhere, you just pop it on and it doesn't like drag. Like it really feels like you're talking to like to some of your friends. Like you're not like just like being talked down to, but like it's stuff that you could relate to and like it's coming from a viewpoint of fans. Like we don't think that we're better than anybody. We're really just talking from a perspective of like this is what like we saw, and it's we're gonna have like fun doing it, and hopefully you guys have fun listening to it too.
Yeah, man. Yep. That's. I can't wait to continue doing this, man. It's gonna be fun. The season's gonna be fun, man. Juan Soto being here just puts a smile on our face and gets us excited for the season. But like I said, we're gonna be doing a lot more of these. I will definitely be doing more coverage on the Mets and my end of my own podcast on Top Bunk Sports. So please shoot me a follow, shoot me subscribe to my YouTube channel. Please follow these guys. I will put their X handles in the description below. Please give them a follow. Please tune in to Queens Baseball Space. And just this, we're not only doing this on here, we're also doing this on X with Met Spaces and stuff like that. So we got a lot of outlets and platforms that we branch off to. But this is the start of just a fresh new podcast of us growing up in Queens and growing up with this team and just loving this team. And you're gonna hear our reactions to how we feel, what we think, whether it's positive or negative. And we hope to grow, and we hope that you guys grow with us. But with that being said, I'm David from Top Bunk Sports. This is my guy AP from Queens Baseball, and we're out, man. We're out. Thank you guys. Appreciate y'all.